My dear people, in my last broadcast, I talked elaborately about what is going on with Tchiroma Bakary in La République du Cameroon. We made a panorama of some local newspapers to see what the newspapers were saying so we could make an informed interpretation of the situation that is unfolding in La République du Cameroon. After yesterday's program, I had the opportunity to exchange with a lot of political actors back in Yaoundé and some in Garoua and in Maroua. I had the opportunity also to talk with some people in the La République du Cameroon intelligence community. The substance of all what I gathered will form the basis of future outings that I'll be explaining to us exactly what is going on. My first instinct as a journalist who worked with all those people, including Tchiroma Bakary, and with background knowledge of whom he is, will be that this is absolutely a decoy. Although I'm getting concordant information that tells me that things might have evolved somehow, I'm still continuing to gather. And we should all continue to view this with skepticism because they say in an African proverb that until the rotten tooth is pulled out, the mouth must chew with caution. Until the rotten tooth is pulled out, the mouth must chew with caution. We have seen situations before of people who have come out and screamed and shouted and said all kinds of things. I said, no, I'm tired of this. It's finished. Fini le copinage. Fini ce bordel. Fini le this and that. I recall one Adama Modi, who was a member of parliament from the northern regions, specifically from the far north. There was a bill still relating to this issue of revision of the constitution. Adama Modi was our star, the star of the press, because he was also making noise. No, they of the Northern Bloc will not vote for that nonsense. That's why he said, fini le copinage, fini l'histoire de mouton du Nord, fini cette gabegie and all of those things, all kinds of finis. And we were all hot and interested. We were behind the same that we were behind the late venerated Justice Aya Paul Abine. But where the late Honorable Aya Paul Abine followed through all the way to the end in his opposition to this. Of course, before long, Adama Modi and all the other talking heads from La République du Cameroon cowed in and voted for the passage of that revision. And so we have seen election after election how Mr. Paul Biya exercised his mastery over the opposition. And that is why two of you see in the Guardian Post and other newspapers, they often refer to him as the political Maradona. Because he had mastered the craft of using and dumping and creating hope in you that you can be reused. That's why you see that about all the ministers who are appointed in the Biya system, who are in limbo, whenever time comes, they are everywhere. On social media, on national television, we were singing praises, singing onto dancing the rope dance. Like if you read Gulliver's Travels and the trip to Lilliput, you understand what I'm talking about. And so it builds this in them. So constantly they know that allegiance has got to be renewed one way or the other. So we have seen people get up, shout like this, make this noise, blow hot air, declare candidature. And at the last minute, they say, well, after careful consideration, after having listened to a lot of people, after listening to even his own people and even his family, he has come to the conclusion that Paul Biya, although he's bad, but remains the only human being alive capable of running La République du Cameroon. And then judging from Tchiroma Bakary's life, judging from personal experience, history with Tchiroma Bakary, it is difficult to want to give him a pass just at face value. It will take him really, I mean really, going all the way to the end for a lot of skeptics, including me, to consider that Issa Tchiroma Bakary has truly turned his back to the Biya regime. Because take note, Issa Tchiroma Bakary was one of the victims of the so-called failed 1984 coup, purportedly orchestrated by the first president of La République du Cameroon, El Haj Babatura Amadou Ahidjo. He was one of the victims, although he did not hold any serious political position because, like I said on my podcast yesterday, he was a railway engineer. I was working at Regifecam at the time. That's at the Cameroon Railway Company at the time. He wasn't even the Director General when he was arrested and thrown in jail. He was released from Konengi. He saw the light of day because of the amnesty laws of 1990 that were passed following popular uprisings, the launch of the Social Democratic Front SDF party on May 26, 1990 in Bamenda, and a serious wind blowing through Africa following the fall of the Berlin Wall, calling for multipartism and democratic change. So the amnesty laws enabled Issa Tchiroma to see the light of day again from Konengi after some 6 to 7 years of detention. Issa Tchiroma got into politics, joined the NUDP party. At the time, the leader of the NUDP party was not Beloboba Maigari, was Samuel Eboa, also of blessed memory. Samuel Eboa from the Mungo division, Ngongsamba of the littoral region of Cameroon. And so Issa Tchiroma was part of the group that played to unseat the guy from the littoral, Samuel Eboa, in a quiet coup that saw Beloboba Maigari, who was on exile in Nigeria, to sail to the helm of the NUDP party on grounds that it was initially his party, that he could not come home to launch it. He arranged it remotely and just had Samuel Eboa to front. And since he was back, he needed to take back the helm of his party. He did that with the assistance of Issa Tchiroma Bakary and Amadou Mustafa. But as I explained in my previous outing, Issa Tchiroma Bakary would eventually go on to betray Buba Bello Maigari as Paul Biya was scrambling to fragment and infiltrate the opposition. So while Buba Bello Maigari was playing hardball, refusing to join the Biya government, determined to fight the Biya government because he thought that he too was noble enough to become president, Issa Tchiroma betrayed him, took the position of Minister of Transport in the Biya system. That's why he was appointed in 1992, Minister of Transport, Issa Tchiroma Bakary. And Amadou Mustafa was the minister delegate at the Presidency of the Republic, in charge of special duties, what we call Minister of that portfolio. A position one gentleman called Mengo Erenkomo has held all his life, but will be ready to auction all the Ambazonians for an empty shell of a position. And so therefore, Issa Tchiroma Bakary stayed in that government for 5 years. When Bello Buba Maigari with his NUDP saw the fortunes of his party dwindle at the 1997 general elections, they went from 68 members of parliament again to barely 18 because the SDF got into the show and swept all the parliamentary seats Hitherto, a lot of the parliamentarians, about 44 or 45 of them, hitherto held by the NUDP party, Buba Bello Maigari saw that he was losing grounds and benefiting nothing, and eventually decided, therefore, to himself negotiate an agreement with the CPDM. Since I can't beat them, I joined them and joined the Biya government. And upon his joining, therefore, they had to kick out Tchiroma Bakary. Frustration, hunger, disappointment that he had been used and dumped. Tchiroma Bakary will go on to create his own party, now known as the FNSC, so that he became again a talking head in the milieu of the opposition in Cameroon. 1997. This way, Tchiroma Bakary tried to make himself again relevant. And so, month in, month out, he was making noise all over the place, joining this coalition, breaking out of that one. Oh, unique candidature today. He'll be out of the opposition. Soon he's condemning the opposition. He's condemning the Biya system until, and he stayed in limbo for quite a long time. Because from the time he was knocked out in 1997, 1998, Tchiroma Bakary realized that life was tough. He didn't keep enough money because he had imagined that he was going to be in Biya's good books forever. He didn't keep enough money. So he went through a lot of pain. Even went to South Africa, stayed for some time, came back with nothing. Tchiroma Bakary found himself even driving around sometime and not having gas in his car. Like I said, he saw his opportunity in 2008, over a decade later, when Paul Biya was seeking to undo a clause in the 1996 Constitution that said the mandate of the President of the Republic will be 7 years, renewable only once. He thought 14 years were too many, but he suddenly saw them getting finished quickly. Although the election was to be in 2011, he did not want to get onto 2011 before making the change, so they wanted to do the change in 2008. So Tchiroma saw his opportunity, and Tchiroma did what? Abandoned the opposition once more, tied the knot again with the CPDM, begged his way, did all kinds of things, became a town crier for Paul Biya, went back to his vomit, started saying all kinds of declarations that Tchiroma Bakary has said about Paul Biya, started rebutting his own accusations and everything, called even himself names as being stupid at the time and short-sighted to have thought that Biya was the problem. For Tchiroma Bakary at that time, the real problem that Cameroon had was the opposition, was the people, and not Paul Biya. And Paul Biya represented the only angel, the only soul that could ride Cameroon to safe shores. Thus, Tchiroma Bakary fought his way back until when the constitution was finally revised, and in 2009, Mr. Paul Biya was forming a new government. Of course, Tchiroma Bakary was appointed not just minister, but Minister of Communication, mouthpiece, or called spokesperson of the government. Oh my goodness. That was a ploy to finally make sure that he would destroy himself beyond recognition, because there was so much on record that he said against Biya. All of this has to be coming out, and he has to be going back to it, rebutting over and over, and he enabled Biya to tell the world that, you see, people say they're condemning me, they realize themselves, they come back to me, and they recognize that I am the best. Tchiroma Bakary as Minister of Communication told lies worse than Titus Oath. for anyone who ever read English history like I did, because we didn't have the chance as Southern Cameroonians, that's why I'm talking like this, to be taught our own history in school. We spent time learning about the history of distant lands that at the time most of us were never even sure we'll visit such lands. All our lives we were reading European history, English history, in history of the ancient empires of Greece, and all of those. That's how I came across Titus Oath. Titus Oath, if you go to Google, just type it Titus Oath, Titus, Titus, Oath, Oats. Titus Oath is considered in English history as the greatest liar in Christendom. Of course, history even has an account that the king ordered that he should be given 130 strokes of the cane in public. Or even light at some point when the queen had a baby, that the prince was brought into the palace in a hot pan. Tchiroma did what Titus Oath left undone. I'm not talking about Augustin Kochukwu, the one who said zero more, that where 6 people were killed on the 26th of May 1990 in Bamenda, who they forcefully launched the SDF fighting for a return of multi-party politics. The Minister of Communication at the time, Augustin Kochukwu, said here is zero more. He was such a liar and could lie with a straight face that people thought they would never see anyone like him again in that country. But Tchiroma made Augustin Kochukwu look like a saint. He lied in every circumstance, so publicly, so easily, so freely, so blatantly. I guess we recall the interview on Equinox television in English, where Hansen told him, but I guess if we're Hansen, he said, but Mr. Minister, the military should stop shooting. And he was about to lie that the Republic military has never shot anyone in the southern Cameroons. And he don't know that this was going to be so brazen, and so he wanted to say the military has never, the military has not. How can you say that? I'm sure we all recall this. This is a man who swore that there was no such thing as an Anglophone problem. What's that? Although I've seen his 24-page epistle that we will come to on Monday, we will dissect it together here on Monday, where he now says, he now acknowledges, oh, there is an Anglophone problem because now he needs power. So when you look at this background, you ask yourself, is this someone you want to believe? He went out once, went back in. He has done the back and forth over and over. Although the intelligence community, like Republic of Cameroon, leaves me to understand that the action he has taken, which is likely being followed by Tchiroma Bakary, who was a minister of Posts and Telecommunications for I don't know how, he was Minister of Posts and Telecommunications, then became Minister of Tourism now for over 10 years, Minister of State, and is even Vice Prime Minister, Minister of State, Vice Prime Minister, because I understand by the time I was coming to this studio that he just announced that his party, the NUDP, will present candidates at all the elections that will take place in October. We said all the elections, of course, we know there's just one election taking place in October, because the Republic of Cameroon decided to postpone the council and parliamentary elections because they want to ensure that a certain clause they say exists in their constitution will bar Maurice Kamto, who doesn't have anyone in parliament or in the councils, to present himself as a candidate on the banner of his MRC party. So covertly, Tchiroma Bakary too says he was going to be candidate. I'm here to confirm that Maurice Kamto actually took part at the meeting that they had today. So, the intelligence community wants to leave me to understand that Tchiroma Bakary had made a lot of overtures with Paul Biya, because first he was disgruntled with the new ministry, where he was removed from communication and sent, where he was no longer visible, where he was literally lost, and did not have access to a lot of illicit money as he was having at the Ministry of Communication. And so he wanted to renegotiate his situation, or also claim he wanted to get projects done in his constituency so he could have vivid arguments to present for the re-election of Paul Biya. But all his attempts at getting in touch with Paul Biya failed. And so it dawned on him that Paul Biya was no longer in control of Cameroon. And all of them have now concluded that Paul Biya is now vegetable, and that other impostors now pretending to run the country like Gongo. And therefore, they say, at the twilight of Mr. Biya's life, origin, reign, it made sense to poke the finger into his eyes. That angle, I'm still exploring. And I will make sure I get as much information as possible before I return to that on this platform. That is the view held by Dieudonné Essomba, a Boulou Ekan Betty apologist, who says il n'y a aucune mise en scène. Amadou Ali avait bien décrit ce processus. Les nordistes soutiendront Biya jusqu'à la fin, mais après lui, le pouvoir rentre au nord. Pour lui, les nordistes, c'est pour les nordistes, Biya est fini. So what Dieudonné Essomba is saying here, that for him, he doesn't think, he's not looking at it from the angle that Tchiroma Bakary is playing a game. That no, it is not drama. That Tchiroma Bakary is operating according to the mantra that the Northeast have always had, that the people from the three northern regions. And he quotes Amadou Ali of blessed memory, who said the northern regions will support Mr. Paul Biya even if he is vegetable all the way to the end. But after him, power must return to the northern regions in consideration of what the French put in place at the dawn of independence in the Republic du Cameroon, known as the North-South axis of power. That power will only alternate between the people of the North and those of the South. South here, they're referring to center, southeast. North here, they're referring to north, Adamawa, and far north. Because don't forget, at the time, north was one province called the Grand North. That is what this is. That is what Dieudonné Essomba is saying. So he says, for the people of the North, Paul Biya is finished. Finished. Everything is done with him. Those who are in place now are jokers. And so he says, therefore, il dit donc le pouvoir doit rentrer au nord. Ce que Tchiroma a fait n'est qu'un coup de sémence. Toute l'élite du nord va suivre. Ce n'est que quelques attardés qui croient encore à des scénarios d'un Biya qui n'existe plus. Dieudonné Essomba. So according to Dieudonné Essomba, he's telling us that what Tchiroma has just done is a Pandora's box that he has just opened. That the floodgates have just been let open. And that you are going to find about all the elite of the northern regions following suit. Because they are now fully convinced that Biya is vegetable, Biya is finished, Biya has attained the end of the road. That the Biya reign is finished. And therefore, logically, power should go back to the north. Don't forget, the Boulou Betty Ekan came out with a document that I produced here, known as la stratégie de conservation du pouvoir. Because the Bulu Ekam Beti consider that if power slips back into the hands of the Northerners, they will never forget the atrocities that the Bulu Ekambeti tribe visited on the Northerners with a fabricated coup in 1984. That is why they have been doing their all to make sure that after Bia, it would be Bia. If it will not be found Bia, it has to be one of them. Because letting go will be the biggest mistake of all times. That is why I keep talking to my brother, Akeremuna, that you see in this picture. I keep communicating this information to people who are close to him to let him know, brother, use the international clout that you have to fight for the only thing you possibly can fight for now and win: the freedom of the Southern Cameroons. Use the international clout you have to garner support for the cause that over 98% of your people are standing for. Use the international clout you have to clean the dirt that has been on the Muna name for over 6 decades because of betrayal. Use the international clout you have to help walk your people into freedom land. That route that Keremuna is trying to pursue in La République du Cameroon is a route that is leading to nowhere. Leading to nowhere. This is delusional. Look at him there. Okay, right here. Yeah, he's with his people. But the next move, recall, Mesanga Nyamding said one of the reasons you have to take Akeremuna seriously is because he is Francophile. Francophile is because he's a lover of France. And so France may soften towards him. Oh, his father once occupied the position of vice president. So that means maybe, because France wants to, at the same time, use someone to cow the people of the Southern Cameroons into adoring a mirage. So, my brother, the venerated man of law, Akeremuna, flew to France to meet the former French President François Hollande. You can see him there in the picture with François Hollande. Akeremuna forgets that his brother, the late barrister Bernard Achomuna, who stood out and screamed and told the youth of the Southern Cameroons, bloody fight. Let them bloody fight for their freedom. Bloody fight. The future is theirs. The future is yours. Mine is behind me. I can die me tomorrow. And he died. That speech was prophetic. The late barrister Bernard Achomuna, I was his personal communications consultant for the 2011 presidential election. He made several trips to France, brother Akere. Several trips to France. He met the same François Hollande. He met Nicolas Sarkozy. He met quite others. They even gave him a public relations firm in Paris. And that firm even got him an excellent barber. Ooh, they gave him a shave. And that's the only thing he came away from there with. That made him look young, boyish, yes, and handsome. And they promised him full support. They even sent him to Senegal. Sent him to Côte d'Ivoire. And you see those other leaders, they will talk to them to provide him money. And he made a budget of over 50 billion CFA to run his campaign. In the end, my dear brother Akeremuna, Barrister Bernard Achomuna had not 1 franc from Paris. Not one franc. Before long, they no longer took his calls. I was with him regularly. There's one Ujambeng Stephen who was working with him at the time, who can confirm what I'm saying. He is in Yaoundé. Ujambeng Stephen had left his party and joined the AFP, the Agence de Force Patriotique or Progressiste. Now he says he's section president again of CPDM in G. Now he says he's even honorable. I don't know. We're always together. Barrister Bernard Mona was deceived. Why the French knew what they were doing. My dear brother Akere Mona, you have what it takes to bolster the fight of the people of the southern Cameroons for freedom. Pick the righteous fight. Don't pick stupidity. In case you have forgotten, Fundi did better than you. He even had the clout. He even had the popularity, had everything. As you can see in this paper, l'expression présidentielle 92. Tous les chiffres donnent ni John Fundi vainqueur. The papers reported it. Everybody knew it. The diplomatic mission had the information. Everyone knew. Fundi won. But Fundi was never given the opportunity to take that position because France said a second-class citizen, a foreigner, cannot become president in a country which is a province of Paris. What has changed between then and now? Barrister Akere Mona. What do you consider has changed? They used your father, used your brother, they also used your sister. That they are about using you. I guess you should say no. You can say no. When you see the conversations, Tchiroma Bakary only came from behind. But look at the attention he's garnering. You have far more substance than Tchiroma Bakary 1,000,000 times. He can't stand you in terms of substance. But look at it. They're even saying that Maurice Kamto should line up behind Tchiroma already. In the conversations, the Southern Cameroons doesn't matter. It will only matter in feudal position. And you know, that is the substance of the fight started since 1963 by the late Professor Bernard Fonlom of blessed memory and Pa from Goji Dinkwa, who, thank God, is still alive. Follow the Molan Jolly Tumbes and all of those. Look at John Gute. Intelligence reports on the audio reveal there has been several months since John Gute last had an audience with Paul Biya. The last time should have been when he obtained to initiate the pre-talks between the Republic of Cameroon and the representatives of the Southern Cameroons in Canada. From that moment, intelligence sources say he has never succeeded in having audience again with Paul Biya. Whereas in the renounce, the Prime Minister normally meets with Paul Biya twice a week. How much else do you want to be said before you Southern Cameroonians still sticking out your heads know that you are named compopes in this whole arrangement? The Son of Man has spoken. I'll be back here on the Tchiroma dossier. There's so much more we have to talk about it. Tomorrow I'll just brush on it lightly, but we'll be back on it fully on Monday. There is something more important than that we're going to discuss on this platform this Sunday. So, stay tuned. Make sure you monitor and log in when we are on. And when you do, share the link. Share the link, share and share and share as much as possible so we get to as many people as we can. Thank you so much for your kind attention. To God be the glory.